Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. With nearly 2 decades helping business owners, consultants, and coaches with their digital marketing, I know that social media can be an incredible tool to grow your business when you know how to do it the right way. This week, I'm excited to sit down with my business bestie, Kendra Swalls, as we dive into some of the insights of growing our own business and some of the struggles we've faced along the way. These monthly episodes are going to help guide you through the world of entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Business Besties podcast with my business bestie, Katie Brinkley. It is the beginning of a brand new year. It's 2023, and we are going to be talking today about how to create goals within your business that you can actually measure and obtain within this year. And this is one of the things that I do at the beginning of every single year. And over the years, I've progressively gotten better at learning how to goal set because it's not something that normally comes naturally to people. It's not something that we're typically taught how to do. It's not like a course you can take in school on how to goal set. And so learning how to create goals and learning how to work and kind of reverse engineer your goals so that you have quantifiable ways of figuring out, did I successfully achieve my goal? Am I constantly moving forward? Those are all the things we're going to talk about today. So Katie, my business bestie, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to talk to you about this today.
Yeah. And I think that with this, Kendra, it's such an important part of being a business owner is setting up goals that you can achieve and that you can measure. This is something that I was not, full transparency, I was not doing this when I first started my business. I was like, look, I just want to get a new client. Let's be real. Like, we can talk about moving from 4 figures to 5 figures, 5 figures to 6 figures, 6 to 7, whatever. We can talk about all that at a later date, but this girl just needs to get another client in. But that was not probably the best way for me to grow my business. And it's probably why those first 3 years, it kind of felt like I was just treading water, trying to figure things out. And honestly, that is where this podcast came to play, is how can we give you, dear listener, the Cliff Notes so that you don't make the same kind of struggles and flounder along your business journey. Because if you can find the shortcut from getting from A to S, and you can skip all those B, C, D, E, F, Gs in there, this is one of the most important things. It's setting those clear and measurable goals so that you can have the business that you want, that you can have the lifestyle that you want. I mean, we can sit around and think that we could do or what we'd like to do, and it's really an entirely different aspect of what the trade-offs are that come with our goals. I mean, everybody wants to make more money, right? But not everybody wants to train like an Olympian.
Right. So let's start with, why do we need to set goals? Because you said something that was really important too. And I think that, I was the same way. I did not really set goals in the beginning of my business for a couple of reasons. Is one, no one really told me I should. I mean, that sounds really simple. Like you should just kind of know, but I didn't know to create goals. I was the same as you. I was like, I just want to get clients. I just want to make more money. I just want to be able to, pay for vacation with my family, or I want to be able to buy this new camera equipment that I wanted. I didn't really have the knowledge I needed for why should I be setting goals? And so I want to talk a little bit about the why behind this. Like, why is goal setting so important? And for me, the whole kind of purpose behind me setting goals in my business is the focus that it gives me. Because if I go into each year kind of going like, okay, I just want to grow my business, what does that really mean? And if I'm just saying I want to grow my business, the chance of me getting distracted throughout the year and totally going off course, because this has happened before, I'm speaking from experience, is that if I don't have a clear focus of what I'm working towards, I get distracted by all of these shiny things of people being like, "Ooh, I did this in my business and it was super successful. Okay, well, I'm going to veer off for 4 months of the year and focus on this thing that's not really going to help move my needle forward in my business." But because I didn't really have a clear vision for what I was supposed to be looking at anyway, it was easy for me to get distracted. So for me, that's my why behind creating these goals is I want to have a very clear point that I'm working towards in my business at all times.
And I recently read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it talks about this goal setting in a way of not just saying like, hey, I want to make more money next year. Hey, I want to write a book. I want to speak on more stages. Whatever your goal is, I'm just going to go off the write a book one. If your goal is to write a book, you need to create the system and the writing schedule that you can actually follow each week. And that will help you achieve your goal. So I think goals are useful for setting the direction of your business, but systems are really what are going to make the goals happen. That's your progress. That's your measurement of how close are you to achieving said goal.
So let's kind of start back at the beginning here. If someone who's going, okay, I hear you guys, I'm listening, I get the point, I need to create goals, I need to have a focus and a direction and a plan and a strategy for my business. How do I even come up with like what goals I should be focusing on if I really truly am just like, I just want to grow my business? So what are some tips that you have or some thoughts you have around the idea of like, how do you even come up with the starting point of your goals?
Well, for me, I'll just start with one thing that I started implementing at the end of 2022 after listening to the Atomic Habits book. And the goal I wanted was to sleep better at night. And I would wake up at 3 o'clock, between 3 and 3:14 every single day. I could not go back to sleep for at least an hour. And by that point, then I was like getting a rushed sleep because I knew my alarm was going to go off in 45 minutes. So I wasn't sleeping good. And my goal was to sleep better. So I had to set up some goal stacking in order to get better sleep. So I felt, okay, if I want to get better sleep, I need to get more exercise and I need to start meditating. I'm already going to bed early enough. I can't go to bed any earlier, for crying out loud. Otherwise, I will wake up at 3 a.m. ready to go for the day. So what I did was I started stacking my goals. So the very first one was I want to start meditating. I have never done it except for like when I've gone to a yoga class and, the last 3 minutes of class when you lay there and in corpse pose and meditate for a minute after you've been exhausted. So what I started doing was stacking the goals, and I was put in my calendar every day at noon before I eat lunch, I'm going to meditate, and I blocked out my calendar. So it was a stack of like, if I want to eat lunch, I need to meditate first. And by starting to put meditation into my day-to-day, the days that I would meditate, but you know what? I slept through the night. And I'm not saying that that's what everyone needs to do in order to sleep better. I think it was because I needed that screen break. And that's why I chose noon, is I needed to step away from my screen just for 15 minutes, rest my eyes, rest my brain, and get back to me. Before I could do that, I had to say like, okay, if I want to go have lunch, I need to meditate first. So then it would become a habit. And so that's where, like, for me, it's kind of going down a rabbit hole of goals right here as far as for business. But I mean, if I'm not sleeping good at night, I'm not going to be able to be a good business leader if I'm not, or a good parent or a good family member or a good friend. So if you find a goal, break it down into micro goals that you can implement that will help give you that greater result.
Yeah. And for me, what I've always done and has been kind of to go, like I literally sit down with like a notebook and I just brainstorm, like a brain dump. And the question I ask myself is, what do I want my life and my business to look like 12 months from now? And not only what do I want it to look like, but what do I want it to feel like? So an example would be whenever I was kind of in my last year of teaching, and I knew that I wanted it to be my last year of teaching. So I had, until the end of that semester, and then I wanted to be done. I sat down, I was like, okay, what do I want this to look like and feel like? Well, I want it to look like I am running my business full time, not part time, but full time. I want to be, putting in so many hours. I want to be making X amount of dollars. But then also, like, how did I want it to feel? I wanted to feel like I had, this time, freedom, and flexibility, and kind of going along with the idea of like, you want to sleep better. That doesn't seem like it's a business goal if you really like quote unquote business, but it's going to help you to be more alert, more awake, more energized throughout your day, to be able to accomplish more, to feel like you are taking that screen break and you are kind of having that time in the middle of the day to reset. And that can have an impact on your business. So your goals don't always have to be, I want to make $5,000 a month, or I want to match my 9-to-5 salary. It doesn't have to be that. It can be things like, I want to be able to, this year, I want to take my family on a vacation to Disney World, or I want to be able to have my business pay for that, the income from my business to pay for that. Or I want to be able to quit my job at the end of the year. And to do that, I have to be able to have X, Y, and Z in place. So looking for me at what do I want my life and my business to look like 12 months from now helps me determine what goals go down on my paper. And like you were saying, kind of that idea of breaking it down, it might be that I say, I want to wake up every day and work out first thing in the morning before anybody else is awake. Well, in order to do that, I have to be going to bed earlier and I have to be getting a better night's sleep, because if I'm waking up every 3 hours, I'm not going to want to get up at 6 a.m. to go work out. So you have to kind of break it down and go, well, what other sort of minor goals within this bigger goal need to happen first, which I call reverse engineering.
Yes.
You start with the big picture and then you work your way back to, what do I need to do now? Like I used the analogy the other day, which I really hate this saying, but it's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Which, who's eating elephant? I don't know. But like, it really is. If you have these big goals in mind, they can feel really scary. And it's scary to put those down on paper and say, this is my goal for the year. But if you really break those goals down into, okay, well, what does it look like if I want to be up every morning an hour earlier than my family and to be able to work out for an hour? Well, it means that I need to be able to go to bed at this time. Okay, well, what has to happen in order for me to go to bed at this time? Okay, well, what has to happen for me to get a better night's sleep? What can I do today to create this habit so that come December, when I'm looking back at this goal, I'm like, oh, this is easy now. Like all the groundwork has been put into place to make this happen.
For example, in 2022, one of my goals was to do more in-person event speaking. I've been doing a lot of virtual event speaking, guesting on a lot of podcasts. My goal for 2022 was to do more in-person event speaking. Well, how was I going to do that? So every single week, I blocked time into my calendar to apply for certain speaking opportunities. I also went to different events, and I found I was going there to network. I was going there to talk with people, to make introductions and see what events were coming up and say, I'm a speaker. If you need anyone, these are different topics that I speak on. I ended up speaking at 5 in-person events in 2022. It was amazing, but I had to put in a lot of work. I couldn't just say like, hey, I want to speak. And I just, sent out one application and it got denied. No, it was built into my calendar every day. If I want this to happen, what are some of the routes and ways that I could go about speaking? Now, I'm going to go in the other direction too. One of my 2022 goals was to be on my phone less at night. I also wanted to read more. Being on social media all day, every day, it can be hard to go home and then disconnect. So I was actually telling Kendra when we were together in Steamboat, when I go home, I go upstairs and I put my phone on the charger until my kids are in bed. Now, at that 8:00 time when my 2 girls go to bed, I hop on the socials for about 30 minutes. But then I know I need, if I want to read at least one book every 2 weeks, because that's how long the library gives me. Every 2 weeks, I have to have at least 30 minutes to read a night. And so that is built into my calendar. If I want to read more, I have to block time into my calendar and into my routine of, 30 minutes. If I want to read one book every 2 weeks or 2 books a month. If I want to be on my phone less, I can't put my phone where it's easy to access. And that's where if one of the things I was doing first thing in the morning, I would roll over, check social media and check my email as soon as I woke up. That was not the best way for me to start my day because I was starting it with anxiety. I'm like, okay, well, now I got to do this and I got to do this. It was starting my brain turning already. I wasn't allowed to start my day on my terms. So it's simple things. A lot of just like what we have. Like if you want to drink less alcohol, put the alcohol in the fridge in the garage instead of in the fridge in the kitchen. Make it a little bit less, out of sight, out of mind, because those are the little things that will help you achieve bigger goals that you might have on your goal list.
Well, and one thing that I think is really important that I have done in this last year that's been super helpful is I always have a million notebooks floating around and I will write my goals down in a notebook. But then the problem is I close that notebook, I put it on the shelf, and I maybe pull it out every once in a while to add something else to the notebook, but I'm not always going back and checking the goals. So what I did this last year is I took those goals and I put them where they were visible. So in my little office space, I have them like pinned on a board, or I've done it in the past where I'll put them on the background of like, I have a Mac computer and you have those little sticky notes you can add onto your computer screen. And I wrote them out on like the little sticky note on my computer screen and they just sit there because that way, like the example you gave of like, putting your phone away in the evenings and having more time to read. Well, if I am coming home every day and I've kind of gotten away from my habit of putting my phone away when I get home from school with the kids, and I see that goal on my computer one day and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a goal I had and I totally forgot and I've gotten off track. I'm not waiting until December to go back and look at my goals and just like fingers crossed, I hope I got them all right. Like, no, I'm actively keeping those goals visible because again, I want them to help me stay on the path that I have in mind for my business and for my life. And so if I'm looking at that and I'm going, well, crap, I've been on my phone every afternoon. I need to get back into this habit. Let me kind of restart this process again of building this habit into my daily routine. It's a good constant reminder. So having those goals visible, I think is super, super important as well, because and that kind of leads into our next little point on this is how do we measure the success of our goals? Because it's easy to say, like we kind of talked about these general, for example, I want to get more followers on Instagram. Okay, well, that's a really general goal. But one of my goals this year, and I'm saying this out of pure transparency, like I know that numbers and followers are not the end all be on Instagram, but I had a goal that by the end of this year, I wanted to hit the mark of 5,000 followers on my Girl Means Business account. And I knew that I needed to give myself that number, but just saying I want to hit this number by the end of 2022 was not enough. I had to, again, like reverse engineer and put the process and the steps in. So what I've done is each month I go into my insights and I record on a spreadsheet, how many followers did I get? How many did I lose? What was my overall account? But beyond that, I look at how many people were engaging with my content. What type of content was performing the best? How many people this month were tapping into my profile? How many of them were tapping into my link or my website? Like I'm tracking all of these things. And I was doing that because I wanted to be able to quantify, am I making progress towards my goal? Because I didn't want to just come up on, December, 30th or 31st and be like, okay, did I hit my number? And be like, oh, no, I didn't. Or, oh, yeah, I did. I wanted to be able to either ramp up my efforts or be like, oh my gosh, I've done this and it's going really well. That this is the right momentum that I need. So having goals that you can quantify is going to help you feel like you're in control of them a little bit more.
Exactly. And it's like if you say, hey, I want to run in the New York City Marathon, and you go running every day, but you don't track how far you run or how long you're running for, you're never going to be able to see improvement and be like, hey, well, if you run the marathon and it's like, oh, well, I couldn't even make it. Well, every day you're actually only running like 2 miles. So, that's why, or whatever. You have to be able to track what the end result is that you want and see if you're making steps in the right direction. So in addition to making those micro goals and creating habits for your goals so that you can achieve a larger goal, I think that is extremely important, is to track what you're currently doing, what's working, what's not, and are you on the right trajectory?
Yeah, because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy. I mean, it's January. 12 months is a lot can happen in 12 months. And you're writing this goal down. You're coming up with this goal. You're coming up with all of these action steps. But 2 months from now, when things get crazy, maybe your business is, seasonal and you hit like your busy season, or things happen in your life and things get chaotic and you kind of forget what your focus point is. Having a way to like consistently track it. Like for me, again, it was every month I would sit down, and I do this with my business finances. I do this with my insights on my email list, on my social media. Like I'm constantly keeping track so that I can see where I'm at in these goals. It also allows me to kind of each month go, okay, am I doing the things that I need to be doing to move the needle forward? Because again, I am notorious for the shiny thing syndrome of I get onto social media and I see somebody's like, "Ooh, this program helped me to do this," or "This is the way to do this in your business," and I get distracted. So each month sitting down and looking at these goals and going, "Okay, this is my focus. I need to stay on what I'm doing. These other things are not going to help me get to what my goal is." But the key here, like we're saying, is the quantify piece. And some of your goals may not feel like they're quantifiable in some ways. Like, for example, the one you talked about, Katie, with like putting your phone away and spending less time on social media. That's not necessarily quantifiable, I guess, unless you're tracking like your weekly, what's that on your iPhone where it tells you like your minutes spent online or whatever.
Yeah, the screen report.
Yes. So you could track that, but finding ways to, even if it's not like a number tracking, maybe it's keeping track of, okay, this is how many days this week I got up before everybody else and worked out, or, tracking how you feel, writing in a journal, keeping track of like writing down the thoughts you're having. And like, maybe you have a goal of a mindset shift. Well, mindset shifts aren't necessarily quantifiable. So finding another way to track whether or not these are actually things like you're moving towards that goal are going to help you stay consistent and stay on top of things and not have to feel like that you're just kind of like fingers crossed hoping you get there at the end of the year.
And I think that too, when you set these goals, setting a schedule, not a deadline, is really important. So again, in the Atomic Habits book, James Clear talks about having goals, but the best way to achieve them is to set a schedule that you can operate by rather than a deadline to perform by. So instead of giving yourself like a deadline to accomplish a particular goal, and then if that deadline comes, December 31st, 2022 comes and you didn't achieve the goal and you feel like a failure, well, you should choose a goal that's important to you and then set a schedule to work towards it consistently. So, if you want more people on your email list, okay, so if I want to have more people on my email list, well, I've been emailing them, like once a quarter, maybe, or like once a week. Maybe if I start emailing them twice a week, let's see what it's like with that. And I just want to get maybe 200 more subscribers with this new email opt-in in the next 30 days. So set goals that are important to you and then set a schedule that you can work towards consistently. And I think it's not a huge shift of thinking, but it makes a difference because I didn't say like, I want to speak on 5 stages in 2022. I said I wanted to have the opportunity to speak at in-person events. And in 2022, I didn't have a certain amount. That was my goal, was to get some in-person events, and a schedule, was what helped me get and achieve my goal, because I wasn't worried about like, I want to have 3 in-person events by March. I just wanted to have some. And now going forward in 2023, I know like, well, hey, 5 in-person events was a lot of travel on this girl, and it was too much. I only want to do 3 in-person events. And I can actually give myself that number now because I've already achieved a certain amount previously, because I didn't have that deadline or that certain amount of speaking events that I wanted to speak at.
Yeah. So, okay, let's kind of recap. I feel like this is a big
topic.
It is a big topic. And I feel like we've given you some practical tips. We've also kind of talked just sort of big picture. But the bottom line is, guys, that there's no one else that can tell you what your goals should be. If you're coming around going like, well, I don't know where to begin. What should my goals be? Or maybe you're looking online and seeing like what other people are posting their goals are. Your goals are personal to you and your business and your lifestyle and what you want. So if you're listening to this and you're going, I don't even know where to begin, get out a blank sheet of paper and just start writing out, like I said, like where do you see yourself in your life, in your business a year from now? Like, what do you really want it to look like and feel like? And where do you want it to be? And just kind of brain dump all these things. And then from that, go through and pick out the things that you can actually start working towards. And then do all the things we said about the reverse engineering and the setting yourself up for success with, have check-ins and have ways to track your success and things that you're doing to work towards that goal. But there's no one that can tell you what your goals should be. That has to fall on you. And unfortunately, that's not something we can say like, okay, here's your goals for the year. I wish we could do that for you, but they're going to be different for every single person. So you have to figure out what it is that you really want to accomplish. And in saying that, I want you to challenge yourself. Like your goals should be something that feel a little bit scary, but also somewhat attainable. Like I'm not going to come in here and say, okay, well, if I've only made $50,000 this year, then next year I want to make $1 million. That is probably like an unrealistic. Exactly. Right. But, or, go find a sugar daddy. Hey, if that's your goal, better, good for you. But I'm just saying, like, you want your goal to be, okay, I'm not going to say I'm going to make 55,000 next year. I'm going to go higher than that. Maybe I'm going to say I want to make,
let's say 60. Let's just say 60.
Yeah.
That's an extra $1,000 a month. What are some ways that you can get reliable $1,000 a month? And that's where you, again, reverse engineer, work backwards and say, okay, let's say you're going to create a course. Let's say that you're going to have a course for $50 a piece or whatever. Well, how are you going to build that course? You have to build in the time into your schedule. Where are you going to find the time to devote to building the course? So go find the big goal, the big thing that you want. Do you want to make 10 grand more next year? Okay, well then reverse engineer how you're going to get there, how you're going to spend the time to do it, how you're going to advertise. All of those things will come full circle and give you that bigger goal once you do that reverse engineering. And it, again, I talk about the sleeping better because it doesn't always have to come down to finances. It can be little things like, hey, I want to try and leave the office by 4 every day. Okay, so if you want to leave by 4 every day, then you need to look at your email starting at 3:15 so that you can look at it for 20 minutes and then you can shut it down and you have 15 minutes to clean up your office so that you're out the door by 4 o'clock every day. So give yourself those little shifts in your day-to-day schedule and your work schedule so that you can achieve those bigger goals for 2023.
For those of you that are interested in building more business, I invite you all to Social Profit Lab, which is going to be February 21st through 24th, 2023. I've brought together over 40 speakers, giving you the insights and the education into that one small thing in your business that could have massive results. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Make sure to subscribe so that you can continue navigating the world of entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave the show a review and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at @IamKatieBrinkley or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're ready to start making some sales on social media, be sure to grab my free guide to selling in the DMs without being spammy. You can get that at katiebrinkley.com. Let's keep taking your marketing to all new heights.